and we'll get started here in a second. All right, James, New Braunfels, great town. Tom's rocking the kitchen counter workstation. Carolyn from Lewisburg, Tennessee, that's great. Oksana, I didn't know you were in Florida, that's fantastic. I don't know, I didn't know that. Carolyn or Caroline, one of the two, Seattle, that's awesome. Sarah, Toledo, fantastic. Brian, Missouri, fantastic. If you're joining, give me a quick chat where you are chiming in from, what city you're in, or what table you're at, or what room in your house you're at. All right, and we're just gonna dive right in. So thank you for joining. This is really exciting, and I applaud you for taking the time to, acknowledge that you could probably. Thank you for taking the time to acknowledge that, it's more valuable to spend time here than it is to get one more thing done off your to-do list. And hopefully my goal is by the end of this session, you have more time in your day, not just today, but in future days, and you have more clarity in your mind. So, all right, we have a few more joining on. Okay, I'll just let them come quick. Go ahead and send me a quick chat where you are chiming in. Where in the country are you, or where in your house are you, whatever you're comfortable with sharing. All right, so we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you. You're great. I'm so excited to be here. I hope you enjoy my wildflowers of Texas. That's the Austin airport up there. Thought we could lighten the day a little bit. So today, I'm going to share 10 minutes of a little bit of the background and my hacks for managing mental health during this COVID situation. We're kind of in the belly of all this right now, so it's settled in, and many people have experienced this grief, where the shock has hit, the denial has hit, and now we're accepting, and it's going to be on the other side of this some sadness and some other emotions that are very heavy. And so this is a really uncomfortable topic for me. It's definitely outside of my comfort zone and outside of my normal scope of work. But I believe more and more, and for those that know me very well, in standardizing those things that we want to normalize. And that theory is turned into practice through process. And so that's my methodology. That's what I help companies do. And because mental health has such a strong stigma, I want to help combat that and play whatever role I can to help companies do that. So let's get straight into it. This series is called Reimagine Restart. And so it's all about imagining a new world of business for all of us, mental health being one of these issues. So as we go along, please interrupt, send a chat, let me know what you're thinking, let me know if you have a different idea. But as the description of the webinar said, or whatever you want to call this, there's 6 key takeaways. They'll each take about 1 to 2 minutes each. One is some examples of how organizations are currently reacting and prepping to deal with employee anxiety and stress. 2, we're going to look at the basics of mental health and the spectrum of mental health as we know it. 3, we'll look at tips to cope with these challenges. We'll discuss specific hacks to keep your team motivated, the most popular and effective apps to support mental health based on some reviews and best practices. And then we'll also talk about how do you standardize this conversation so it's not just a one-stop shop. So go ahead and send your questions. I want to preface this by saying I am not by any means certified in this. My goal is not to treat current problems. My goal is to share with you ways that we can help mitigate and prevent these problems. So as we all feel, a lot of people giving advice out there that's really kind of surface level. And what I want to be very clear, what this is not is me telling you to exercise, drink water, sleep, and or diagnose you. What I want to say is, how do we exercise? How do we drink more water? How do we sleep? And how do we prevent these problems? So if anyone like me, what I thought 2020 would feel like is the picture on the left. And what 2020 actually feels like is the picture on the right. Give me a little thumbs up in the chat if you feel the same way. Yes, no, maybe. If y'all know Christina Kuzmic, she's actually She just makes YouTube videos about being a mom. She's a comedian, actually. But I just thought, like, we could all use a little humor in our workplace. So, okay. Thank you for letting me know. I just saw the chat, guys. Give me a quick shout if you're still experiencing that, since we're just a few minutes in, and I will adjust on my side. So, if you're feeling the same way we are, we want to help mitigate and transition, so we're not all in this state. That's what we're gonna kind of hope by the end of the session you guys can experience. All right. Okay, I just turned off my video. Thanks, Tom, for that. Let's see if that adjusts, and just let me know in the chat if you are. So give me a thumbs up if you are feeling this way, and let's continue. So this problem is very real. Quick stats. As of study that was released just last week, 7 in 10 employees are saying that this is the most stressful time in their entire professional career. 88% of workers are experiencing moderate to extreme stress over the past 4 to 6 weeks, and 62% noted losing at least 1 hour a day in productivity to stress. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the message. So we know this problem is real. It's important for all of us data lovers to at least have these numbers to see the stats. So let's go into the solution. How organizations are reacting. This is an example that one of my clients did that I thought was hilarious, which they started a Mustache Monday in an attempt to provide a little humor and levity to the situation that everyone's facing. So this is a guy that's trying to grow a mustache in their office, and they had a designer PDF some mustaches on them. Every Monday it's released in their group chat, and it's just, again, something to uplift everyone's mood. Another organization that I've worked with recently is holding a mental health day, and it's just all around sharing best practices around mental health, and they're actually encouraging people within the month of April to take 1 day off, and they're calling it a mental health day. Some other things I've seen, and this is specific to the brand itself, but a company called Acorn Signs, which approved me to share this. Their brand is called Acorn. That's the name of their company, and they manufacture signs. So they created a temporary newsletter called the Nut House because one of the frontline employees on the manufacturing plant said, "It's an effing nut house right now." And it just worked to be humorous because it's so aligned with the brand, acorns being nuts. Now, obviously, this could be sensitive to some people and offensive, but within the internal company, because it came from the front line, it was accepted and implemented. And now they have this weekly newsletter, and all it does is share funny things like the meme of the week, the puzzle of the week, again, just to provide some levity. So I've seen some companies take it really seriously. Some companies provide more humor. And I think the whole general feeling is, how can you as a company do what's right within your culture and your value system and your brand to provide some uplifting mood, and as well kind of normalize the conversation. So those are just 3 simple examples. The key point here is not to cut and paste. The key point is to recognize that these all came from the front line. So if you're in a company looking to, uplift the mood, ask your people, hey, how can we lift the mood up? What's some clever things we can do? And let that idea come from the inside. So again, these how we're seeing these play out in symptoms. These are some of the descriptions I've heard from people within my network over the last week that are very real. We're eating less. We're not actually eating more. We're forgetting to eat. We're taking digestive pills. We have difficulty sleeping, nightmares, night sweats, drinking to go to sleep. Sorry, but not sorry. We've all been there, and myself included. Drinking, specifically alcohol and beer, is up 56% in sales nationwide in the country of the United States of America. Screen time is up 36%. Difficulty with concentration, as I mentioned earlier, the stat that people are losing an hour a day. So definitely this is worsening, and it's only going to get worse. And then in general, the bigger existential crisis people are facing is terrible fear and worry around their own health and loved ones. So this is a bigger issue, but for the sake of today, we're going to talk more about what we're individually experiencing and how we can go through our work days to prevent some of these symptoms. So 1 to 2 minutes real quick on the spectrum of health. It's really important, when we think of how urgent of an issue it is. This is pulled from the CDC, and it breaks it down into 3 main areas: prevention, treatment, and continuing care. So today, where we're at is kind of in between prevention and treatment. So sometimes the issues and the symptoms that we talked about in the last slide, they're experienced very deeply or they're experienced very lightly. Just last week, I felt like I had an experience where everything hit at the same time, and I felt more on the right side of the spectrum, where I needed help, I needed support, I needed to talk to someone, and then day to day, I feel more on the left side of the spectrum. How that plays out in terms of the workplace is people are balancing between working less and working more. And so every day people are coming to work, but how much they're putting in and how committed they are is really affected by what's going on the inside. So 3 tips to cope. This is super analog, so don't judge my handwriting. Don't judge me as a person for controlling my life. Please just accept that this is a tool that's really simple and actually works, and I really want to share it with you for that reason. This is actually how I wrote my first book, and this is how I'm controlling some of my symptoms right now. And so, again, I'm just looking to be as authentic as possible to share with you what's really working. So these are my 3 main goals for the month of April: is writing, no alcohol, and no eating out. No takeout at all. All I do is from left to right, I documented kind of 1 to 30 days of the month of April. From top to bottom on the left column, I have my AM things that I have to get done, my PM things I have to get done. Some of these are personal, some of these are health, some of these are food. Welcome. Oh, looks like we got 2 more people coming. All right, awesome. To everyone who's All right, we just had a few more people join. Welcome. We're just at a stage of talking about concrete tips, so I'm going to jump right back in. Does anyone do anything in their life that's like this, that's also analog? Feel free to send it in the chat. Here's the way this works. At Toyota, we had a phrase that's called jidoka, and it's the power of visualization. So essentially, these are the things I need to do every morning, and it's take my morning vitamins, maintain my autoimmune diet, walk 5K to 10K steps, write 500 words, take my fish oil, track my food intake. For the month of April, I have some goals around my fat, carbs, and protein intake. And so all of these are things that, again, this is not to cut and paste, but this is things that I do. And I was finding because of my work stress, I was just totally letting these go by the wayside. And so you have AM and PM, and then as I go through my day, I just check off X or check if I did it or not. And so what happens is every day by the end of the week, I can see, like, if you go down to alcohol, no alcohol, let's just go to the one that everyone cares most about, right? If you go down to no alcohol, I was doing great for about 10 days. And then 5 days in a row, that wine just felt real good. So, this is it's analog, but sometimes when we hide things in our phones, it's harder to track because it's easier to ignore. James said, I've written a routine for outside of work hours. Awesome, but I'm struggling to execute. I love the idea of a checklist. I'm going to write one later today. Yeah, so I do real time. I do it, again, once in the morning, once in the PM. I do the same thing for my financial budget, but I do it on my phone. Great idea for physical and mental health. Yeah. So what I find, Oksana said she uses a dry erase board. That's fantastic. What I find is that if I do this every day, I can track my progress. So I'm finally back in the stage of no alcohol. Starting yesterday. And so anyway, feel free to take this. It doesn't need to be this complex. I have a pretty rigid protocol. So feel free to take that and run with it. All right, so moving along. Another thing I did that has been really helpful for me, just an idea for you to steal. I actually went on Facebook and created a Get Through April accountability group. And these are people that I trust, people that I already have rapport with. And I just invited them to this private group and I said, let's get real. This is crazy. Let's hold each other accountable. And we just post in there. When we post, everyone kind of shares what the focus of April is. Now it's up to 47 members. Again, this has nothing to do with my work. Selfishly, it was really more because I wanted help. And it's proven to be really great and really uplifting. So let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about hacks. So these are things that people have described to me as crazy, but they work. So I want to share them with you. One is they say to drink water. I don't know about you, but I cannot count my glasses of water, and I know water is important. So what I do is I ordered a 52 ounce basically jug, stainless steel jug. And as you may have seen in my last list, but one of the things I do every night is I fill this water up for the next day. And I have a water filter system in my house. So I fill the water up so it's ready for the next day. My goal is to drink 2 of these in one day. So essentially, if my water jug is not empty by the end of the day, I just chug. And then there are some days where it's already gone. But that's how I make sure to get enough water, and it works. Another hack is getting steps. We're all sitting too much. It's really crazy. It's bad on our backs, our hips. There's an app called Step It Up that's freaking genius. And it's basically a system where you bet against yourself. So you set your goal, you put your own money in, and as you achieve your steps for the day, you get paid out. And as people drop out and don't achieve steps, you get paid out on their, lack of keeping up with their steps. You're not making money off this. I mean, you're making, dollars and cents. This is not it's not really for the purpose of making money. It's for the purpose of holding you accountable. So I want to go ahead and take a moment. If you have your phone out in front of you, go ahead and download this app, Step It Up. It's called Step Bet. Step Bet, and it's in Android and Apple. But if you're looking to get your steps up and sit less, go ahead and download that app now. It's really, really amazing. Is there anything else anyone else does to keep your steps up in terms of sitting, and all we're doing to sit? Just go ahead and share that in the screen. Also, if you have anything you do to make sure you get water, go ahead and share that. Standing desk. I know, Victor, I should get a standing desk. I still struggle with standing desks. But I got to go ahead and get one. All right. So another hack, we're going to do this real time. So I want to go ahead and invite you to pull up your email. If you don't already have it open, or you're not multitasking like most of us, go ahead and open your email, and we're going to walk through this. Awesome. Carolyn said our organization's created a collective walking challenge. We log our miles in a Google spreadsheet, sets goals. That's fantastic. So what this is, right now, everyone's emailing you. Emails are not bad. They're great if they're newsletters you want to receive. So what I do that has really saved a ton of time and given a lot of clarity is, okay, we still have people joining. Welcome, Blake. Give us a shout in the chat. Let us know where you're from. All right. Yes. Welcome, Blake. So real quick, I want to go through how to unsubscribe and get this folder set up in your email. This has been one of the best things I've done in the last year. All you do is you go into your email. This is a screenshot of what it looks like when it's finished. You go into your email settings. You create a folder, so it would show up in the left column here. That's called unsubscribe. Of course, it's right here, but you can't see it. Create a folder, and then go into settings and go to filters. All Gmail has this, but other email systems should. Set up a filter for any email that comes through containing the word unsubscribe. Naturally, those are going to be newsletters. And then say filter to the folder that you created called unsubscribe. And then set a calendar invite for yourself. I do it personally on Fridays at 4 p.m. for 15 minutes. And that's when you can go through and actually read these. So within seconds, your inbox will be clear by about 15 to 20 emails a day. Pretty incredible. So go ahead and do that if you're up for it. I'm going to go ahead and move along, and then we'll get my surprise guests on with us. So let's wrap up with best apps. I am a fan of apps, but I also am a fan of doing things without technology. So Best mood overall has been recommended. It's called Mood Fit. Best for learning coping skills. It's called Mood Mission. Best for therapy. You probably have heard of Talkspace. And then let's share 3 more. Best for stress relief is Sanvello. Best for meditation is Headspace. Best fun app is called Happify. Go ahead and share in the chat if you use any of these and or if you have a different one that you use. And we'll go ahead and move along here and then share those. Any other apps that you recommend. But those are the 6 that I found based on the different types of apps. So lastly, let's wrap up with how do you move this into day-to-day? So, you know, I'm all about prevention. So if we can manage our internal selves, we can be better on the external. And now it's how do we bring that into our day-to-day rhythms and day-to-day operations? So one is your meeting rhythms. Every company has daily huddles, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, quarterly meetings. Right now, we're pretty much operating in a daily, sometimes an evening huddle, definitely weekly meetings. So the way I've seen this done is the team over at Soul Marketing, they, in their daily huddle share, they open it with one thing that they're grateful for. Personally, in our company, we start with a saying that I use, which is tell me something good. It's a little bit of an alteration of that, but it's also in line with what we're saying, which is how do you start your meetings off with positivity and acknowledging people's emotions and well-being so that we can move through the day more effectively. Those are 2 things that we do. If you have another best practice there in your meeting rhythm, please share it in chat so we can kind of pay it forward to everyone. Carolyn said as far as apps that she likes, it's Insight Timer. Carolyn, if you can give us some feedback on what that is used for, that would be great, but I'm not familiar with that one. All right, let's move along. 2 more things, and then we'll wrap up here with our next guest. Performance reviews. So this is just a funny cartoon about how performance reviews are generally negative. And so what we've done at our company is we've iterated our performance reviews to move from quarterly to monthly with weekly one-to-one check-ins. And again, we make time in that performance review on the front end and on the back end to acknowledge how they're feeling. Like quite literally, I say, tell me where you're at today with how you're feeling. And then I wrap up my performance review on the one-to-ones on a weekly basis and the monthly with, do you feel like your state of being has improved? So those are 2 prompts that I use. Please steal those. And again, if you have something better to share, please share that in the chat. The last thing I do to build better maintenance of my mental health into day-to-day business is with scheduling. So on the left, I have what not to do, and on the right, what I have to do. And what we do here is essentially, this is typically how people schedule their day. Back to back, no time in between, no headspace, literally and figuratively, and also no time to act on the things that were agreed upon in the meeting. And so what I want to move to is a best practice that I do that I've found huge impact on my mental health and also productivity is I create space. Now, this is an example where I had a different amount of space in between these meetings depending on what I needed to work on. But in general, my rule of thumb is I never schedule meetings back to back. I minimum give 15 minutes. It does 2 things specifically. One, it's actually more productive because I immediately take action on whatever was determined in that meeting. And then 2, it allows me to recenter with what's coming up next. So I'm not, going to the next meeting scattered, disheveled, not prepared or anything like that. So this is it's a small change that if you immediately implement makes a really big impact. Okay, Carolyn, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, Insight Timer, Carolyn shares, is a timer to help manage intentionality, mindfulness, and has different categories that you're trying to do better at. That's great. Okay, so, I forgot this last one. I'm sorry. I've also seen this in terms of running challenges to be a really effective thing to do into day-to-day business. So this is an example of like a 30-day mental health challenge that I pulled. But I think a better way is to do just one challenge for the month, and then acknowledging that in your meeting rhythms and daily huddles. And then incentivizing. So coming up with an award you can do at the end. So key takeaways, boom, we covered all of that. I totally went over, but thank you for your patience. Hopefully you feel a little bit more like this rather than like this. And my challenge to you as we move into this next half of this webinar is take this, we're gonna send out the recording, and ask your boss, ask your manager, can we hold a mental health lunch and learn and just go through this recording? Or you can take this recording, make your own, whatever you feel necessary, but please steal these ideas and run with them. So as far as me, this will end my half of the webinar, and please stay connected. You can find me at any of these, at any of your platforms at hilarycorna.com or at hilarycorna.com. And now what I'd like to do is go ahead and let go of my screen and invite my guests. I'm very excited to share with you someone who I met last year speaking at an event with Entrepreneurs Organization, and she's specifically trained around the world on mindfulness as it stands in the world we live in today. She's trained in India, she's worked worldwide. Her name is Oksana. Her company is called Satvimi, and I am just honored to have her here and to let her take over the screen and do her thing. So she will kind of take this and elevate it to a whole nother level. So Oksana, are you there with us?
Yes, Hilary, sure I am.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and let go of my screen, and feel free to take over.
Yes, I'll share my slides very quickly so then we can start. Great to be here with you. Just 1 second so we can get. So great insights, Hilary, and I've learned a couple of things too. I certainly use and practice some of the things that you have mentioned, and they're really great takeaways for other sides. So can you see the screen saying there's a purple boat? Everything? Okay, great. So let's go. So I thought that I'll start by sharing this picture. This is me at 13 years old, and I'm originally from Russia. You might pick it up, some accent still. And this was kind of a preparation for what we're going through. However, I don't have the mask right now. And the point of me sharing this is that I've been in the mental health indirectly, being born and raised in the Soviet Union for quite some time. And my goal right now is to give it to you straight like a shot of vodka. I don't want a mask. I don't want to tiptoe around it. It's just, this is what it is. And let's see what we can do to start addressing the issue versus kind of masking it and pretending that it's not happening. So I would like to start with a question. Right now, as we are in the current time, are you experiencing any of these issues? Problems, sleepy, difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, restlessness, or getting up tired, anxiety from growing list of to-dos and email box? Do you feel like you are increasing or relying on caffeine, alcohol, sugar, tobacco, or other stimulants that you might use? Do you feel restless, wound up, being agitated? Are you going through bouts of depression? It could be a day, it could be a couple of hours, could be weeks. Are you overeating or undereating or using digestive pills like Hilary mentioned before? What is your pain level and body tensions within, stomach problems? Are you biting your nails? And last but not least, are you kind of starting to have the questioning of existence? What is the point of all of this? Are you going through some kind of internal struggle of what is happening? And if you do, or perhaps you know someone, maybe you don't go through this, but your loved ones or your colleague or the family is, then you kind of can self-identify a little bit that you are going through some mental health issues. And as it defined by CDC and other organizations, mental health illnesses, they impair our ability to clearly think, feel emotions, having good mood, and it impacts our behavior. And it could be both occasional or long lasting, meaning chronic, and it just impacts your ability to live your life full and contribute to your relationships and your work. And what I've struggled in my in my life is that I thought that, well, if I experience bounds of happiness and I am, I'm generally an excited person, then I don't have mental health issues. But that's not necessarily the case. They're not mutually exclusive. You can have both, and you do need to pay attention to when you're feeling sad and distracted. Trying to go along. And the mental health issues, in particularly suicide that I'm giving you the graph here, has been on the rise ever since 2000. And we're at the highest point, and this stops in 2017, but I can guarantee you that the numbers are way higher right now. We're at the highest since it's been since the Great Depression and World War II. And this is not something to take lightly. This is not something to be scared of, but we need to start taking action and be prepared and addressing it inside out. And I would like to ask you, when do you think, in your opinion, people are committing more suicides? And by the way, suicide is number 2 issue in the United States among the ages 15 to 34 and number 10 among all other groups. And 90% of those people that do take their life in one way or the other, they experience mental health issues, 90% of them. So it's not that necessarily one leads to the other, but it's a serious topic. So if you could put in a chat right now, when do you think people would tend to take their life more? And while you're doing that, I just want to see what are your thoughts on that. I thought, since Hilary was working in Japan, I heard this term karoshi. Hilary, I'm not sure if you've heard this term, but literally Japanese coined it as death by overwork, where people were, especially men, were committing suicides because they were burned out, because they were so overwhelmed with what was happening. So we want to prevent that. So Hilary, could you read some chats? I just kind of not sure if I can read and stop sharing my screen at the same time. What are people saying? When do they think that we are experiencing more suicides in our life?
Spring. Looks like overwhelmingly winter.
Winter, right? I thought the same, and it is so interesting. I totally resonate with you, and I said winter, of course, but it's actually spring. And we are right now with coronavirus, we are in the winter, and spring is coming next. Why spring? Is because in the winter we're mobilized for survival. We are actually doing all the things to push through, to survive, to persevere, and we don't have energy to do anything to harm ourselves. In spring, though, when the things start to get brighter, we do get a little bit energy, a little bit of sun, but inside us, the darkness still prevails. That's when we take more action towards drastic measures, because we start doubting ourselves. We have not improved, and we have not felt better. The same thing for war veterans. They don't really do anything and have any kind of deeper struggles during the war times, because there's survival, there's camaraderie, they're having the purpose. But it's when they're coming home is where all the PTSD and suicide things happen for them. So going back to the reality of the employers and employees at work with COVID-19 right now, remember, we're in the winter, and now it's the time to do something to address this topic. The way I would like to start is mental health. And what does it include? What is it defining? The CDC defines it as emotional, psychological, and social well-being. I personally like to add physical, financial, and spiritual well-being. And I don't think I kind of gave the proper introduction of myself, because Hilary did such a great job. But I personally have struggled with mental health for up until 27 years of my life. And I did not understand what kind of impact it creates on my life, because I was totally in it. So everything that I'm sharing right now not only is something that I study, and it's something that I work with my clients, but it also dear to my heart, and the practices and things that we'll be sharing here. So I include physical, financial, and spiritual well-being, because without these 6, then the life is not fulfilling, it's not complete. So Hilary shared great stats, but I thought I'll brush up very quickly. As of March of 2020, there was Deloitte who studied China impact of COVID-19, and they already see 46% reduction in performance in the employment space. US workers say that the cutbacks at work affecting their financial situation. Remember that financial well-being is one of the big stressors that adds to people's mental health. And this is as of March of 2020. That is Gallup that did the poll. 81% expected the negative impact of their workplace, and I think it's mostly universal. And then in general, there's about 34% of burnout costs to their employer. And you can see it both ways. You can see it to if you are an employer, you can see it, this is how much it will cost you if one or several of your employees started to burn out. Burnout meaning that they're not productive, they're taking sick days, they are going to the hospitals and taking doctor's visits and prescriptions, medications, or it could be absenteeism. They're demotivated, they're disengaged, they're discouraged, they just lost the thrive of what they're doing because they're so overwhelmed. If you would take a salary of $45,000, then the losses are about $15,000. If you take a salary of $70,000, the losses are $23,000. If you take a salary higher, then we're going in the higher numbers. If you are a household, think about you personally who will lose that income and opportunity to be productive and contribute to the workforce. So I wanted to stop the doomsday, and in Russia we say that you prepare sleds in the summer and carriage in the winter, meaning this is the time to prepare. And I want to pause right here for just a second to see if there's any questions. Hilary, could you tell me if there's any questions about anything that I've said or the comments?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question so far, but Victor shared a related story. He said more Navy SEALs quit selection while watching the sunset on the beach than at any other point in time. The point being, an idle mind, when not primed for resilience, can affect us more than staying busy and working through what we have to do. Deep thoughts by Victor.
Victor, thank you so much. It is in fact very impactful of how much our resilience based on activities and when it is, how much seasonal and cyclical we are. And that goes back to our rituals, routines, and rhythms that Hilary was talking about, and setting yourself up for success in the right time. So thank you so much for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit from the employer perspective of what would you get as return on investment if you invest into your own mental health or your employees or your teams or even your family. So this is for the employees. However, I would say that it resonates through life as well. So Harvard estimated, and there are different polls and different programs, that it costs about, it is the ratio about $6 to $1. So if you invest $1 into the mental health, you will get 6 in return. And that includes the medical costs that fall about $3.27. And these are the cost of absentees, meaning that employees are physically present, but they're really not productive and they're not contributing to the company's bottom line. The other metrics here is the physical healthcare cost for the employers, and it could be anywhere between actually 13 and 86%. These are the numbers for the disease prevention programs, meaning reminding the employees to do regular checkups, go to and take their prescription medication, and if they have any kind of disease, keeping that under control. If you talk about lifestyle programs like Hilary mentioned, steps or meditation apps or anything like that, usually participation is much higher, which is about 87%. The cost savings about 13%, which is, again, on the company scale, it's amazing results. So you can look at that. And then mental health in general, it's quite hard to quantify. So we need to take into account the qualified information here, which is the value of investment. How much does a how much does it matter for you to increase your productivity, retention, engagement, well-being, feeling great, relations with your colleagues, family, clients, customer relations. So this is a very hard to measure, but at the same time, we don't want to dismiss them. And mental health, addressing any programs or initiatives, that's what it brings a lot of value, that feedback, showing that you care and show that you care for yourself and for others. This is one of the best value adds that you can look for the mental health programs. Hilary, I'll pause right here to kind of see if I see there are comments popping up, but I cannot see what they are. I just want to pause very quickly to see if there's anything that you want to share.
Yeah. So far, does anyone have input or things they're seeing real time in their workplace with their friends, internally as themselves, that they're comfortable sharing, and or any questions posed to either Oksana or I? Go ahead and put that into the chat. Oksana, we've had one request to share the data on the ROI of wellness that you just shared. So I'll make sure to get that from you and we can share it out with the recording.
Great. So I actually kind of want, Hilary, how are we doing on time? I want to be respectful on time and I want to get to the tactics. So I want to see if I should skip a few
Yes,
slides.
we have 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. So it's a full hour. Okay, great. So when it comes to mental health programs, I know that Hilary had mentioned the apps and the lunch and learns, and there were a few other things that they were great tools. I want, though, to specify what really has shown to be effective. And there's a difference between education and training. When it comes to education, it is aspirational, meaning that employers, or you get the resources, like you will get our webinar as a resource right now. Whether you're going to do something with it or not, that's a different question. That's why it may or may not result in immediate action. It does not usually result in repeated behaviors, especially when these initiatives are during work, after work, like lunch and learns. They might be motivational, but not getting. Education can be fast forgotten if not repeated. If you're not repeating and reinforcing that information, employees would not do anything with it, and I could relate to that myself as well. Usually the educational initiatives are entertaining and easy. They create socialization, but they're all external motivations, kind of come to our lunch and learn. And as a result, they might come to as an expense as a company. What works in my experience, both personally and professionally, is doing the trainings. Trainings are practical, meaning that you are making employees do things versus just telling them about it. It demands immediate action. So that's why I love when Hilary said, take your phones, download that app, and that is the immediate action. It trains repeated behavior, habits, and new routines. It's all about the consistently small efforts every day. It becomes part of the culture, personal, organizational. So what you want to impact is the lifelong change versus just quick solutions for the day of right now. And it's engaging, but it's challenging. And if it's challenging, it's rewarding. If it's easy, it's not rewarding. It creates bonding experience within your team. It is driven by the internal motivation versus external. And as a result, any investment into the company well-being, wellness, mental health programs becomes an investment and not as an expense. The bottom line, to kind of, if you are to take one thing out of it, is that education leads to motivation. Training leads to behavioral change. So if you want to change behaviors of your teams, yourself, then target training and invest your time and effort into trainings. And what it does eventually, it impacts the culture, as I said, personal and organizational, and that's where we want to go. So I wanted to remind you where we started off, that all these things that we've mentioned, that even for you or others, it's not okay to feel worried, feared, anxious, and overwhelmed. I know we're living in stressed times, but regularly having those feelings is a clear sign that there is lack of self-regulation, mental and emotional regulation, and that can be trained. It's not okay to switch from caffeine during the day to wine in the evening to go to sleep, or then sleeping pills at night. It's not okay to wake up in the middle of the night. I've heard many complaints or notes that we're waking up in the middle of the night, and that's a clear sign of stress. It's not okay to empty your fridge in one day, or to overeat or to undereat. It's not okay to feel like life is running out of time. There should be enough space and time to include yourself and the well-being and the employer's needs and your family needs. We all have 24 hours, and some of us handle it better than the other, but it's not okay to be constantly rushed and feeling like life is sneaking by. It's not okay to burst with anger or hopelessness, shut down with hopelessness. So if you are experiencing the severe mood swings, then there's a clear sign that you need to address something in your life. And most importantly, this is my saying, it might sound harsh for many people, but as I said, I'm Russian and I'm going to give it to you straight. It's not okay to pretend like everything is okay because of the shame and guilt that we feel to admit that we are struggling. Men especially struggling with that. I have struggled with that many, many years. I was not addressing it, and I was not looking for help. I was not talking to my friends and family about it, and I paid the high price of time. So now I'm all about encouraging, and it boils down to the simple fact that you can change what you are willing and able to accept. That awareness, that acceptance is the first step. Just say, okay, this is what it is. Now, what are we going to do about it? So what are we going to do about it? And I will pause right here to see if Hilary, you have some comments or questions up until now, if there's any shares that you'd like to read.
Not at the moment. Nope, we're all set. Let's get to the goodies.
Alrighty. So in addition to amazing tactics that Hilary has shared, here's what I want to offer you from the perspective of the mental health, emotional, psychological component to it. The emotional and psychological component is that we tend to identify with what we're feeling. And when we feel that anxiety, depression, hopelessness, or anger, it consumes us all. And what helps is to separate from it and create a little bit of distance. And when we are in that all-consuming feeling, we tend to say, I am angry, or I am upset, I am overwhelmed, I am stressed. Try to instead saying, I feel stressed, I feel angry, I feel overwhelmed. And notice that this is only a part of you that feel that way, but there are other parts of you that actually could observe it and could find peace and stillness and be okay. So having that separation creates if you want to turn into neuroscience, using I feel versus I am lightens up the prefrontal cortex, and it allows us to switch on the executive function, versus if you say I am, you are going to take over the limbic system, the emotional response, and you completely go into survival mode. So just simple language. Another good hack for that is saying, instead of saying I have to do this, I have to open my emails, I have to answer clients, switch it to I get to. I get to do this. I get to wake up every morning. I get to serve my clients. I get to serve my kids. Whatever is that you kind of say, oh, I have to do it. It creates the lightness. It creates the opportunity to serve versus the burden. I have to has a very burdensome connotation, where I get to is an opportunity, is something that you could certainly expand on. Simple language like that impacts different parts of our brain, and just going through the simple changes and exercise in your language will significantly psychologically and emotionally lighten you up throughout the day. So write in the chat, what would you switch from today, from saying I have to I get to? What do you get to do? For example, I get to make up my bed because I have a bed, and we're living in a very prosperous country versus a lot of countries now on the lockdown, like India, where I study and go a lot to. Some of them don't have really beds, so it's kind of becoming not a chore but a privilege. So that's where you want to get there. So say in the chat, what are you going to switch from now I have to I get to? What do you get to do? Do you get to pay your bills? Maybe, because this is something that we all drag and don't want to do, but at the same time it's a privilege because we have jobs still. Many people have lost or experiencing difficulties with that. So we're going to paddle along. I just want to see, Hilary, is there anything that I need to clarify or anything that is worth sharing with everyone?
Just some fun chats happening. Victor's very excited about you adjusting cognitive behavioral therapy.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, there's some nuggets with that. They're actually, I'm not, just so we're clear, and I have it on the record, none of this is medical advice. None of this is diagnosis, like Hilary said before, and I'm not a medical professional. These are all things that come from experience, extensive research, experience from the clients. However, you need to use your own judgment, and these are not necessarily tools from cognitive behavioral therapy, meaning I did not take it from there, but I'm happy that it correlates and that it kind of like shows that there is some connection and it makes sense to you, Victor. So happy that you've mentioned that. So when it comes to stress, when it comes to immediate addressing what is happening inside us, I would like to say that stress management is breath management. The way we relate with our body and with our breath are one of the most impactful and fastest tools to change our emotions, change our psychological mood, and address the behavior. There are 3 techniques that I want to share with you to see that you can use right away. The first one is alternate nostril breathing, and Hilary kind of asked me to show it to you and maybe practice just a few moments. So the way you would do the alternate nostril breathing, you'll take the right thumb and close the right nostril. And I can't see you, but I would like you to play along with me. So close the right nostril and inhale on the count of 5 through the left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now take the ring finger of the opposite, close the left nostril and exhale through the right only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now inhale through the right nostril. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Close the right nostril, exhale left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch and exhale right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale right. And continue at this pace. Even as I keep talking, again, I cannot see you, so you can keep doing it. Just keep inhale through one nostril, exhale through the other. I'll explain to you that this breath in particular actually balances the left and the right side of the body, the left and the right side of the brain. It's balancing, regulating, stabilizing. It helps to release stress. And if you kind of find the quiet space and you do it for a couple of minutes a day, and you even can find in yourself closing your eyes, then it's deeply relaxing and it helps to recharge and re-energize. So you take an active recharging break, and these breaks are monumental to stop the burnout. You want to de-risk your life, de-risk your business by preventing the burnout through those breaks. You can keep going with the breath. Another one that I want to show you is exhaling through the straw. We usually hold our breath, but if we'll make our exhalation very long, and I'll show it to you. So you'll inhale through the nose, and then you'll pierce your lip like you have a straw, like you have a drink, and you will exhale slowly through that straw. Give it a try yourself. Inhale in one through the nose, and then pierce your lips and exhale through the mouth. And keep exhaling till you no longer can exhale, and you will notice that your exhalation is way longer than your inhalation, or that your exhalation, if you do it without piercing your lip into the straw. And what it does is significantly down-regulate your nervous system, and this is amazing if you feel triggered. If you're feeling that burst of hopelessness or anger or rage, that you can start breathing in this way, and even 3 to 6 of those breaths will have significant impact, and I hope you will even feel from a couple of times. And then the last one that I want to show you, it was interesting to me to read that CDC recommended that in COVID-19 times, people should use deep breathing. However, they never specify what deep breathing is, and there's a whole science around that. Like, I could do a whole 1-hour workshop on the deep breathing alone, but I want to give you this little hack. Imagine that you're hugging a teddy bear by your belly, and I'll show you a little bit. You kind of want to hug your abdominal area like you would snug into the teddy bear. That's why I call it hug the bear, so you can remember. And as you inhale through the nose or the mouth, whatever feels good for you, expand your belly so you can feel your arms expanding, and that's what you are wanting to target. That's where you are engaging the lower part of the lungs. So, and then as you exhale, everything goes down. So you want to inhale and exhale from your belly and from your lower abdominals and from your rib cage versus the upper chest. And that's where it's all coming from. Hilary, I just want to pause for a second if anyone has any thoughts or comments.
So it's interesting. Victor said we use this tactical breathing, is what he's calling it, for high stress situations to ensure we don't get tunnel vision. When activated by stress your body, when activated by stress, goes into fight or flight. So your body, auditory, vision, etc., narrows in on the stressor, the threat itself, as a defense mechanism when running from a predator. That is important. When trying to do anything else, it means we miss things.
Absolutely. So that when we are in a fight, flight, or freeze zone, we have overly active autonomic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, and freeze response. And yes, it's usually you're zoning into the danger so much that you start missing all the surroundings and everything that is happening, and you're just zoomed in into the danger. And in order to snap out of that and activate the default mode network and get your thinking brain online, breathing is one of the fastest and the most impactful ways to do that. And thank you so much, Victor, for sharing and kind of validating it, that it is relevant for, I would assume, the Army, Marines, but it's also very relevant for our day-to-day life and work. So thank you so much again. So the last tools that I want to talk about is meditation. Hilary kind of showed a few. She said Headspace. I personally do not use or do not like to recommend any apps because I feel like it's limiting the capacity. The way I started, and it's something that I highlight in my book, Next Level You, the way I started when I didn't even know, that's before I knew anything about mental health, mindfulness, and meditation, I was tasked with sitting still. And I was tasked with 2 minutes of sitting still, and I couldn't do it. My nervous system was so agitated that it was one of the hardest tasks. But as I was getting into it, as I was practicing it every day, now I say, well, sit still for 3 times a day, because I don't assume that you are as off the rails as I was. So I don't think that anybody who is on this call will have issues with sitting down for 2 minutes. So 3 times a day is all that's recommended. Just sit still, close everything or close your eyes, and that's all. And it's going to do magic on your nervous system. And that's kind of like the mini hack to how you can start and initiate yourself into the beginning of the meditative mind or meditative practicing. Turn tension into water. A lot of times we actually experience stress, and actually all the time, in our body and sensations. And what I like to do is visualize that tense spot. And usually you can say where it is. It's the chest, the head, the hips. Turn it into water and see how it melts down, creating more space. And then lastly, remember we said some of us starting to doubt, what is that point of all of this? Why we're going through this huge changes and how we can cope with all of this. And for me, what helps is getting perspective. And the way I do it, there are many ways, but the one I want to share is think plus or minus 100 years. We existed as a human race 100 years before. There are things going to go on 100 years after. On the scope of the universe, of the scope of 200 years, how serious things are. And I know they're very personal and very serious for many, many reasons. However, we also need to get the perspective of infinity, the perspective of our mortality. We don't think in those terms because everything is so urgent and important. But if we only think that we are all gonna die, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of kind of haters for saying that, but we're all gonna die. And at the end of the day, it is important to enjoy life as day-to-day journey and put some time and effort into that, putting time and effort into things that you enjoy, creating space for yourself to breathe in between your meetings, to move your body, to get that water, or to spend some time with the loved ones. So getting perspective is very, very important. And I wanted to share this quote from one of the clients that we've implemented the sessions. That is what I do. We implement mental health programs that are short-term inside the organizations to help employees to cope with the challenging times like right now, or to start them off with a good mental health practices so they can incorporate it into their culture. And these are kind of summarizes the majority of the benefits that these kind of tools at work do. Sessions have been incredibly helpful for the sanity's sake, particular Shemin, the COVID-19 times. We've been learning varied breathing exercises while all the faculties escalate between work, homeschool, teaching, co-working with my partner, parenting in the midst of the global pandemic. And the investment is much appreciated. And this has been the feedback across the board. I want to leave you with this one quote that I find very dear and near to my heart. Whoever travels without a guide needs 200 years for a 2-day journey, Rumi. And for me, I have had a mentality of that I can do it all, I can research it all, I can do it all by myself. But it really was not until I started to hire guides, coaches, and participating and learning from others and engaging with others, and that I started to make a lot of progress. So the thought of this is that you don't need to go through this alone. Hilary is a huge resource for you. I'm now your resource as well. So reach out, how we can help, what we can do for you. That is very important. You are not alone amidst any of this. And this is my contact information, and I'd be happy to hear from you at any point of time. So this concludes what I wanted to prepare, and I assume we are right on the dot with time. So Hilary, I'll give it back to you.
Awesome. So where does everyone stand with this? How are they feeling kind of post hour later? Do you feel like you have some tactical things you can change starting today? Do you feel like you have some relief? If you can just put in the chat kind of how you're feeling, what's your state right now? And as you write those, I'll share some of them. Carolyn says, much like Oksana, I'm challenged at sitting still. Guided meditation is helpful for me. Victor says, nature walks are his form of meditation. Still learning, but that's how I recharge and lower my activation. And if anyone else has, what do you do to lower those triggers and lower those stressors, and how are you feeling right now? And meanwhile, if you have any specific questions for Oksana, please reach out. And as you write those up, I see a few coming in. I kind of want to acknowledge here, why, as we wrap up this hour, why, as Oksana mentioned, is it so hard for us to admit? And I think there's something that I personally have a vendetta towards, which is the last decade of the hustle, the grind, the scale up, the 10x, the growth, and, all of these buzzwords we hear out in the community that really drive us in the wrong direction of what success is. And, why I personally, anyone who knows me knows I love process and operations, but why I so believe in these internal systems is I believe that it's up to us as individuals to dictate that and not let the external inputs of the world guide us down the wrong way against our value system and beliefs. And so my hope is that, the last 45 minutes to an hour were an investment in you and what's right for you and what's your definition of success, and let go of the hustle. The hustle is not cool, guys. It's not cool. It's all a big facade, and beneath it all, there's a lot of sadness. So hopefully you can find some solace in knowing that caring for yourself is the best success you'll ever have. Brian says he's brainstorming on how to implement some ideas shared on the webinar. Awesome. Feel free to ask any questions or share any specifics. So first of all, thank you to everyone for, again, creating this space and acknowledging that this is a valuable way to spend your time rather than getting one more thing done off your checklist. And hopefully we made your checklist shorter by a few of these hacks. And thank you to Oksana, and please reach out to her if there's anything she can do. I think I'm going to share one of her tools in the recording email as well. So it's a guided meditation that she created. So feel free to steal that and run with it. And thank you so much. You guys are wonderful beings, and mwah, to better leaders in the world. Have a great rest of your hump day, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.